In every corner of the world, children are often at the center of local legends. Why is that? Their innocence, their curiosity, and sometimes their sheer vulnerability tap into something deeper within us. It's like they're the perfect vessels for our deepest fears and desires. But here's the kicker, it's not just about the stories we tell them. No, it's about what those stories reveal about us. Take a moment to think about it. Every time a child goes missing in a community, the atmosphere shifts. Parents whisper, old folks share knowing glances, and suddenly, the innocent laughter of children echoes against a backdrop of dread. Stories of lost children, angry spirits, or vengeful creatures emerge, feeding a cycle of fear that binds the community tighter. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to dig deeper into this. The role of children in these legends isn't just a narrative device, it's a reflection of our collective psyche. The innocence of children often represents what we, as adults, fear losing. It's that stark contrast, the light of a child against the shadow of our anxieties. Imagine a small town where every child knows the tale of the weeping woman. A ghostly figure who roams the streets, her cries echoing through the night. Parents use her story as a warning, a way to keep children close and obedient. But what's fascinating here is how this legend evolves. It doesn't just scare kids, it shapes their behaviors. They learn to be cautious, to fear the dark, and to respect boundaries. But then, there's that moment when a child dares to challenge the story. They wander too far, ignoring the warnings. That's when the legend takes on a life of its own, feeding on the fear and anxiety of the community. It's a cycle. The child's innocence is tested, and the community's fears are amplified. If you're finding this intriguing, hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's take a closer look at how these legends vary across different cultures. In some rural areas, children's roles in local folklore highlight their connection to nature. They're seen as pure and close to the earth, making them ideal characters for tales about spirits that protect the land. The stories often carry moral lessons, teaching respect for the environment. In contrast, urban legends tend to focus more on societal fears. Think about the classic tale of the babysitter and the man upstairs. In this scenario, the child is not just innocent, they're a potential victim. It's an exaggerated reflection of parental anxieties about safety in a chaotic world. The city is full of dangers, and children become the focal point of those fears. Now, picture a child in a bustling metropolis. They're surrounded by noise, traffic, and constant movement. The stories they hear are different, shaped by the environment. The fear isn't just about the supernatural, it's about the very real threats that lurk around every corner. But what about the historical contexts of these legends? Many of them have roots in real events, woven into the fabric of community memory. Consider the story of the missing child in Bahia from 1992. Little Lena vanished without a trace, and her disappearance became a chilling legend, a reminder of life's fragility. The community rallied together, but the fear lingered long after the search ended. This incident reshaped the community's perception of safety. It transformed innocent children into symbols of vulnerability, sparking caution and paranoia. The echoes of Lena's story still resonate, instilling a deep-seated fear that shapes how parents raise their children today. And let's not forget the stories that come from the rural areas. They often carry a different weight. When a child goes missing in a small town, it's not just a personal tragedy, it's a communal crisis. The entire town feels the loss, and the legends that arise often reflect the collective grief and fear. For instance, there's the tale of Antonio from Parana. His failed bean crop due to a drought isn't just about farming struggles, it symbolizes the community's vulnerability to nature. The drought didn't just ruin his harvest, it threatened their very survival. When children hear these stories, they absorb not just the narrative, but the underlying fears that come with it. As the stories unfold, they become more than just entertainment. They transform into lessons, warnings, and reflections of societal values. And in times of crisis, these legends can take on a life of their own, shaping how a community reacts. Now, let's switch gears a bit. Think about the character Elias, a night watchman at a disused hydroelectric plant in Sao Paulo. The year was 1999, and a severe storm was brewing. Elias, familiar with the sounds of the plant, chose not to evacuate when the waters began to rise. Why? Because he believed he understood the danger. But here's the twist. His past experiences didn't prepare him for the chaos of that night. The storm unleashed a torrent of water, and the familiar sounds he once trusted morphed into terrifying roars. The community's fear didn't just stem from the storm, it came from the betrayal of their own understanding. How often do we think we know the danger, only to be blindsided by reality? This brings us back to children. They're the ones who often experience these legends firsthand. When a community faces a crisis, it's the children who become the focus. Their innocence is a stark reminder of what's at stake. Each legend carries a weight, and the stories told around the fire become tools for shaping behavior and beliefs. If you're following along, it's a good time to give this a like. It helps spread the word about these important discussions. But let's dig deeper. Why do these legends persist? They evolve over time, shaped by the fears of each generation. The Weeping Woman might have started as a cautionary tale, but as the community changes, so does her story. Now, she may represent not just the fear of losing a child, but the anxiety around societal changes, migration, and urbanization. The stories adapt, reflecting the fears of the times. Children grow up hearing these tales, but they also become part of the narrative, shaping how the legends are told. When a child asks questions or challenges the stories, they're not just curious, they're pushing against the boundaries of tradition. And this is where things get interesting. The interplay of innocence and fear creates a unique dynamic. The legends are a way for communities to express their anxieties, but they also provide a framework for understanding the world. So what happens when a child becomes a part of these legends? Their innocence can either reinforce the fear or challenge it. Let's look at Carlos, a topographer working alone in Nova Lima, Minas Gerais, in 2014. He faced extreme thirst while working on a construction project. The pressure of a deadline pushed him to make desperate choices, like drinking from a sealed water source he knew nothing about. In that moment, Carlos embodied the struggle between innocence and survival. His actions were not just about quenching thirst, they reflected a deeper fear of failure, isolation, and the unknown. These legends, whether whispered between children or recounted by elders, shape our understanding of risk and safety. They connect us to our fears and to each other. But wait, let's not overlook the emotional stakes here. Each story carries with it a tangible fear, loss, danger to children, and the isolation that comes with it. The characters often face personal crises that heighten the tension, making the legends even more impactful. Imagine sitting around a campfire, the darkness creeping in, and a child tells a story about a spirit that lingers in the woods. Suddenly, the shadows seem to grow, and the rustling leaves take on sinister meanings. That's the power of these tales. They tap into our primal fears, reminding us of the dangers that lurk just beyond our awareness. And here's where the nuance comes in. Not every legend has a clear resolution. Often, they leave us with more questions than answers. The unresolved mysteries linger, creating a sense of unease that can haunt a community for generations. This is the beauty of folklore. It holds up a mirror to our collective fears, showing us what matters most. As we explore these stories, we're not just delving into the supernatural, we're peeling back the layers of human experience. If you're enjoying this exploration, stay tuned for what's next. There's so much more to uncover about the role of children in these legends and what they reveal about our deepest fears. As we move forward, let's remember that the tales we tell shape the realities we live in. Each legend is a thread woven into the fabric of community life, reflecting our shared experiences and anxieties. And it's through the innocent eyes of children that we often see the stark contrasts between fear and hope, darkness and light. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into more stories, exploring how they evolve and the impact they have on communities. Stay with me as we uncover the layers of these captivating legends and the role children play in keeping them alive. But as we wrap up this section, let's take a moment to reflect. What do these stories tell us about ourselves? How do they shape our perceptions of childhood, safety, and fear? These are the questions that linger long after the stories have been told, reminding us of the complex relationship between innocence and the darker sides of human nature. And remember, your journey through this exploration doesn't have to end here. There's a wealth of information and stories waiting to be uncovered. So before we continue, let me remind you to subscribe and ring that bell. You won't want to miss what comes next. Let's dive back in, shall we? As we look deeper into these legends, let's consider the role of children. Often, they are the central figures in these tales, embodying innocence yet also serving as vessels for fear and caution. In many stories, Children are portrayed as the most vulnerable, which heightens the stakes. Think about it. When a child goes missing in a story, it's not just a plot twist, it's a community's worst nightmare. It forces everyone to confront their deepest anxieties about safety and the unknown. A perfect example is the case of Lena, the 3-year-old girl who went missing in Bahia back in 1992. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the community. Families locked their doors tighter, parents became more protective, and whispers of caution turned into full-blown legends. The fear of losing a child transformed Lena's story from a tragic event into a cautionary tale, one that would echo through the generations. What's real is how these narratives evolve over time. Each retelling adds layers, often exaggerating the details, amplifying the fear, and reshaping the moral. The simple act of storytelling becomes a means of processing trauma, a way for communities to cope with their fears. And children, as the innocent protagonists, become symbols of what's at stake. But let's not forget the tales where children emerge as heroes. In some legends, the bravery of a child can turn the tide against darkness. These stories serve as reminders that hope can coexist with fear. They teach communities the importance of courage and resilience. The duality of these narratives captures the essence of childhood itself. It's a world where danger lurks, but so does the possibility of triumph. Now, consider the impact of these stories on a community. They don't just entertain, they instill values, shape behavior, and create a sense of identity. The retelling of these legends strengthens community bonds, as families gather around fires or dinner tables, sharing stories that on a deeply personal level. It's a way of passing down wisdom, ensuring that the lessons learned are not forgotten. But here's where it gets complex. As societies evolve, so do their fears and the legends that reflect them. What was once a fear of the dark woods might now translate into fears about technology or urban life. The settings change, but the importante anxieties remain. This adaptation keeps the stories relevant, resonating with new generations while still acknowledging the past. And you know what? This evolution can be both real and troubling. On one hand, it shows the resilience of culture. On the other, it raises questions about what new fears we are passing down. Are we instilling a sense of caution, or are we breeding paranoia? The balance is delicate, and it's a conversation worth having. As we continue our exploration, let's open the floor to you. What's a childhood story that shaped your perception of fear? Did it teach you a valuable lesson, or did it just make you wary of the dark? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear about the legends that linger in your mind. Now, before we dive into the next layer of our exploration, let me remind you, if this journey captivates you, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell. You'll want to stay updated on all the intriguing tales and insights we have lined up. Let's return to our narrative. The intertwining of fear and folklore serves as a good lens through which we can examine human nature. As we peel back the layers of these stories, we realize they reflect our collective consciousness. They reveal what we value, what we fear, and how we cope with the uncertainties of life. Remember, each story is not just about the supernatural. It's about the very real emotions that come to life through these tales. They capture the essence of childhood, where every rustle in the bushes can ignite fear, but also where imagination can transform a mundane night into an adventure. Before we wrap up, let's think about the lasting impact of these legends. As generations pass them down, they become woven into the fabric of community life. They shape our understanding of safety, morality, and family ties. And the children who hear these stories? They carry them forward, ensuring that the lessons learned don't fade away. Now, as we approach the conclusion of this segment, I want to leave you with one final thought. The stories we tell not only reflect our fears but also our hopes. They illustrate the intricate dance between light and dark, innocence and danger. So, as we sign off, I encourage you to keep exploring these narratives. There's a wealth of insight to be gained from understanding how folklore shapes our reality. And remember, if you want to keep uncovering these compelling stories and insights, hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay in the loop. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I can't wait to dive into the next chapter with you.